Hey, what's up guys, Rev here. So you'll never guess what today's video is about. It's another round of localizer related drama because localizers and their supporters can't help but dig deeper and deeper holes for themselves because they keep reacting horribly to the recent public criticism that they've been facing for a lot of mistranslations that have slipped into anime and manga. And what started as a conversation about AI potentially replacing localizers has evolved into a bigger and bigger spotlight, highlighting all of the mistranslations these localizers have been routinely spilling out for the past couple of decades. And what's made this situation even worse is how localizers and their supporters have been reacting to this fair criticism on places like Twitter. They cannot stop tweeting and digging themselves deeper holes. They're making it very clear that not only do they have no respect for the source material, they don't have respect for their own fans. And that's very evident through people like Jamie Marchi. We talked about her in the last two videos. She is someone who really represents a lot of the things that people don't like about localizers. In fact, she is the voice actress from Funimation who is responsible for this iconic localization. She is the one who voiced Lukwa as she delivered this infamous localization, the "Oh, those pesky patriarchal societal demands were getting on my nerves, so I changed clothes." She's responsible for that. And as we've had this conversation about localizers over the past couple of days, even a week, this localization in particular has been used as a shining example of everything wrong with these localizers. And she has not taken this well. Jamie's been responding to everyone criticizing her for this localization and her role in this localization. Now, in my last video, we talked about who was responsible for this line. Did Jamie come up with this localization or was it someone else and she just read the line? Well, after trying to gaslight people into thinking she was not responsible for the localization, when asked point blank by this user, "Did you write the Dragon Maid patriarchy cringe joke?" she finally said, "Yes, I wrote the line." So we know it's hers, and that's where we left off in our last video. Today, we're going to be picking up on her reaction, her continued reaction to criticism revolving around this line and other tweets that she's made. So basically, after arguing with more people on New Year's Eve, eventually responding to one tweet, she would say, "I actually can't translate any of it. I don't speak Japanese," which a lot of people were clowning on, but personally, I'm not surprised. Of course she doesn't speak Japanese. We pretty much already knew that. And she uses this as a defense to say, well, I'm not a translator. You guys are getting mad at translators. I'm not a translator. No, you are not a translator, but you are a localizer. You localized those lines. You saw the original translated dialogue, and then you adapted it to something else by adding in the patriarchy jokes. You are a localizer. We are all criticizing localizers, and you're one of them. It's very clear by your actions in admitting that you changed that line for the Funimation dub of Dragon Maid. And she would go on responding to this person saying, "You don't speak Japanese." Jamie would say, "Is that supposed to be a gotcha? Most of the script adapters don't speak Japanese." You know, she's so desperate to get an own on the supposed chuds on Twitter that she is quite literally admitting the exact things people want to hear. These are the things your critics are saying, and you're confirming it. You are confirming that localizers and script adapters for anime dubs don't speak Japanese. That's a huge problem, and users are pointing this out. This is exactly why people are concerned that Japanese anime, manga, and video games, their English dubs are flawed because the people adapting them, the people localizing them, don't speak Japanese. They don't know anything about the language or the culture as a consequence. These are very valid concerns, and I can't believe Jamie is admitting this publicly. This is like the thing that's gone unspoken within the localizer community, but now they're saying it outright to try to, I don't know, get a one-over on someone on Twitter, one of the low follower accounts they're beefing with. And this user would point something pretty interesting out that really confirms what we're talking about here. So remember how all this recent conversation about AI versus localizers started. It was the Ancient Magus' Bride manga, the English release of a recent edition of it that was using AI. Now people, including some Japanese speakers, have been looking at this AI translation and they're saying it's pretty accurate. Now, of course, we know AI is never going to be perfect, but this proves something that Jamie is saying. Unwittingly, she is confirming something in this tweet. And basically, it's you don't need to speak Japanese to do any of these localizations. You quite literally can take Japanese text, run it through AI, get an English script from that, and then localize it based on that AI translation. You don't even need to speak Japanese to become a localizer. We kind of already knew that, but now with this and what Jamie's saying, it all but confirms that literally anyone is as qualified as these localizers. Okay, I'm as qualified as a localizer as Jamie is. We both don't speak Japanese, so we can literally just see these translated texts of Japanese content and just make our own localizations however we feel. If we feel a message is inappropriate or something that the English audience won't understand, well, I'm just a localizer. I can change it any way I want. And that's the attitude they have. And you can see the bar for getting into the localization scene is literally nothing at this point. And it goes hand in hand with AI, which is the irony here. But anyways, there'll be more arguments about, in particular, the Dragon Maid localization. So she was continuing to argue on. This user said, I'm saying localizing to insert something that is not inherently in the context of the Japanese is not what people want. People use anime to escape. It's an art form many love. Inserting something you personally believe is not what the Japanese want. Where Jamie replies, do you know that Lukua disapproves of the people telling her to cover up? In the Japanese, the line indicates she is not happy about the fact that she feels like she has to cover up this body, one that she chose for herself. Where this user replies, so why did you put anything about patriarchy in the lines? Stick to the source material and stay as close to it as possible. You're not supposed to just insert some stuff not even half of the country believes, but you felt it was necessary. Why? Where Jamie replies saying, I did. She disapproves of people telling her to cover up in both the Japanese and the dub. It's exactly the same as the source material. Exactly the same as the source material. She just said she needed to cover up and that was it because she didn't want people looking at her. And yours, you're going on a tangent about the patriarchy and societal demands and stuff like that. It is not the same. You are expanding upon it. You're making a localization, which tells me or tells the audience that you needed to change something. There was something flawed with the original text. If you're going to change the message, it's not just a change or a different word choice. It's an entirely different message. It starts off with a very benign message and you expand it into something that's much more about an entire societal expectation based on the patriarchy. That's a little different than saying I don't want people looking at me, so I covered up with different clothes. It is a different message. It shares the same foundation, but the localization goes way beyond the original message. And this user would reply to that saying, localizers are supposed to fix things for a Western audience, but I'm sure none of the politically motivated things you added were anywhere in the intent of the Japanese. Think of it this way. If you did this to like a live action Japanese war film, which sometimes do get dubbed. And Jamie replies saying, how do you know what the Japanese intended? And the user goes, how do you? And Jamie replies, well, I had a translation and a lot of other information to go off of. That's usually a great indicator of intent. Where this user would reply saying, yes, but critically speaking, people want accurate translations. The context is not the same, Jamie, because you're from a completely different side of the world. Do you personally know how Japanese society works? Their views on world and history? Because Japanese politics. Where Jamie replies, what is the context then? And this user said, here's the context. And it's your Dragon Maid localization. There's all the context you need to know. And you took it and you made it into this line about the patriarchy. That's exactly what everyone's driving at. And again, for someone who's replying to everything that people are saying about them, they have no response to this because you're given the context and you have no response to it. And just to add on to this, Jamie woke up on New Year's Day and said, New Year, same old me, and has decided to try to monetize the ridiculous amount of hate that she receives. And that's her goal in the year 2024. And this user said, I have an idea, maybe reading the hate messages in a Shakespearean style as short videos to monetize. And Jamie says, oh, that would be easy content on TikTok too. Great idea. Yeah, definitely go out there. I mean, you're kind of stealing from my playbook and monetizing hate directed towards you. But sure, go to TikTok and get $1 per 100,000 views. And I'll make sure to laugh at them on YouTube where you can actually like properly monetize stuff. But yeah, that's definitely something I'd be interested in. So feel free to provide that holy grail of content for us. But anyways, this expands into more conversations about localizers. I think after what we just read, tweets like this are even funnier. So this user said, every other week on here is a bunch of academics who are fluent in Japanese arguing with knuckle-dragging crybabies who think that localizers are making them gay, and it's painful to watch, not gonna lie. Okay, this last part never happened. Nobody's claiming this. This is headcanon. I don't know what you're talking about. But this whole part right here, it's a bunch of academics who are fluent in Japanese. No, it's not. We just proved that. This whole conversation, one of the big spots in this localization drama is people like Jamie. She doesn't speak Japanese. She's not an academic. So what are you talking about? A lot of people are just claiming that they know better when they're on the same playing field as the people criticizing them. They don't speak Japanese either. And there are people who speak Japanese who are speaking out against these localizations. How do you think these localizations are proven to be untrustworthy? It's because people who speak Japanese look at them and they say, hey, that's not what the original intent was behind the Japanese text. These tweets just look absolutely embarrassing. And then reducing all of your critics to knuckle-dragging crybabies. Yeah, that's definitely a fair way to lens an entire group of people raising valid points about mistranslations. And then this user goes on to say, these people are literally impossible to argue with. They saw one episode of Chainsaw Man and believe that's what Tokyo is like. There's no reasoning with them. I really don't care about the opinions of someone who gets angry about subtitles. If they want to believe that there's no gay people or other races and Japanese women will be attracted to them, or they'll come here and get fluent in Japanese and achieve bunkai or whatever fantasy nonsense, just leave them to it. They're never leaving their hometown, don't worry. This seems like a lot of projection right here. I have absolutely no idea what this has to do with mistranslations, but this idea that you don't care about the opinions of someone who gets angry about subtitles, do you understand what a hobby is? People care about their hobbies, and when people come in and start messing with their hobbies, the people who care about those hobbies are going to care about those misdeeds. Isn't it that obvious? If you were consuming some other translated form of media, if people started messing with that, I'm sure you would care. You don't care because you don't actually consume anime and manga with any sort of meaningful intent. You don't actually care about these things because it's not affecting products that you're consuming. And honestly, if you do consume these products and they're being improperly translated, if you don't have a problem with that, I don't know what to tell you. You should. You should have a problem with that. Don't let people walk all over you and take advantage of you by providing these mistranslations and then going to places like Twitter and bragging about doing it as these localizers have. But yeah, to characterize all these people as just a person who saw one episode of Chainsaw Man, really? No, these are the actual anime fans who consume these things and manga fans who consume these things regularly. They're the ones making these criticisms. And they go on to say, don't worry, I'm sure AI will translate your anime perfectly for you. Now, go enjoy watching your favorite anime Bleach with main characters Strawberry and Microwave. Okay. Yeah, basically we all know this isn't just one little mistranslation here. There's an endless line. This little image right here ends up with a new bad localization every single day. This meme format just keeps growing and growing because there's countless examples of weird enforced localizations. I think one of the best examples comes out of Fire Emblem, okay? It's not just aggressively obnoxious localizations where they're adding in extra things. There's also times where they just remove things. This is another side. So this is a real one-by-one comparison of the Japanese text of this Fire Emblem sequence versus the localization. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, those are blank frames. Those are blank frames. 4 times in a row, they removed all of this dialogue and just put blank pages. Insanity. And then people are confused when users are complaining about localizations. You have this tweet here. A lot of people are responding to this one. It says, if these guys spent even a fraction of the time learning Japanese that they do complaining about translation, they wouldn't need to rely on translators in the first place. Which, be careful what you wish for, because if people learn Japanese, then they wouldn't need translators and localizers. They would be out of a job. And that's exactly why these translators are scared about AI, because it cuts them out of the equation, just like learning Japanese would cut these translators out of the equation in the anime and manga spaces. But a lot of people would reply to this, and I think it sums it up really well. This user said, you know someone's got a rock-solid argument when they drop their hot take and immediately lock the replies. Many such cases, by the way. This user uses a classic metaphor. So this panel here says, WTF, did they put an actual turd in my burger? And this person responds saying, oh my God, stop complaining so much. If you don't want to eat there, just learn to make burgers at home, which is a great metaphor for this go learn Japanese argument. This user said, people shouldn't be required to learn a whole new language just to have peace of mind that the original writer's intent is kept as much as possible. Instead of facing and improving the issue, we get told to just learn Japanese with a holier-than-thou attitude. This user said, learning Japanese will not stop something that's an industry issue. How else do you think people realize something's been mistranslated? Some of these guys do know, and that's exactly what I talked about a few minutes ago. How do you think people spot these bad localizations and translations? It's because people speak Japanese and they can recognize that the original intent of the Japanese dialogue has been changed. But this is also an interesting point. They say that's why the Spanish speakers aren't causing mayhem. People, forget there's other localizations and translations into Spanish and other languages where this issue of terrible translations and localizations of anime and manga is nowhere near as prevalent as it is with the English translations and localizations. But of course, after facing some valid criticism, this user would say, going to lock replies now because I'm going to move on to think about something else. Learn to speak the language if you love anime and manga so much. You will not regret learning a new language, but you will regret wasting your time posting. As I'm sure they put on their sunglasses and walked away. Of course, they follow the actual meme format. There's literal formats that sum up exactly what we just saw. So you make your burning hot take, someone argues with it and points to evidence to the contrary, and then they say, oh my God, I'm locking this thread, I'm muting the replies, and then they just kind of go away in defeat, of course. But yeah, as a lot of people keep denying that this is happening, there's endless threads on Twitter showing dozens of examples of bad localizations in anime and manga. And you would have known most of these if you've been watching the videos on this channel, but there's threads like this all over Twitter. Don't let these localizers and translators gaslight you into thinking this is a smaller issue than it is, because there's plenty of examples out there, and they're all out there for you to check out on your own. But yeah, that's going to do it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Please share all of your thoughts about today's topics in the comment section down below, and I'll see you guys next time.